We're going to start working on writing number four's first body paragraph. And we're going to do the first body paragraph on logos, which I think is the easiest paragraph to write. So here's how we're going to approach it. And I'm going to use Julie Gunlock's article about the First Lady and the cheeseburger as my example. So I'm going to start by looking at my outline. And so what I've done is I've taken parts of my planner or my outline and just kind of pulled it out. So I go back to what I've already established, which I think is the central argument in her essay, which is listed up here, that the Obamas believe that they know what is best for Americans, yet they're hypocritical in following their own rules. This consequently widens the gap in their disconnectedness with Americans. And then I flip to the back page of my planner, or go to page 2 since it's electronic, and I look at my examples that I've created about logos. And so what I do is I look at them and I kind of put them in an order which I think is going to make a lot of sense in the way I want to present her argument. I may have to go a little bit out of order how it shows up logically or chronologically in the piece, but that's okay. So you'll notice here I listed paragraphs. Here's paragraph 1, paragraph 9, paragraph 12, 6, and then 3. So it doesn't go in an exact order, but this is the order which I think would make sense to explain her point. And so those are the quotes that I want to draw out. I want to talk about Michelle Obama getting caught with the photo, with the cheeseburger and the fries. I want to talk about all the examples on paragraph 9 of the food choices that they've made. I want to take a look at how President Obama smokes, but no one really knew about that. I want to go back to paragraph 6 and talk about how they believe that government is the solution to our weight problems as well as our healthcare problems in America. And lastly, how she has openly criticized food choices in America's food industry at schools, etc. So I will use these examples to analyze how she forms her argument as well as why she's successful with her audience. And I have to once again go back to my planner and say, okay, what was the audience? I know that she's writing for the National Review, and so she's writing for a conservative magazine, so she's writing to conservative readers. So notice how I'm going to directly quote her words, and then I'm going to analyze how effective it is. So throughout my body paragraph, I'm going to keep using a lot of hows, explaining how she argues, but ultimately I want to keep coming back to why this seems to be effective. All right. And so my body paragraph's a little longer than I want it to be, so I'm going to have to trim it back, but that's okay. I'd much rather have it longer now and then trim it back later as opposed to like struggling to come up with things to say. So here we go. Listen to how I use a topic sentence to refer to logic or logos. It reads, Gunlock defends her central argument with ironclad concrete examples of the Obama's missteps. There's a apostrophe I'm missing there, the Obama's missteps. In following the same rules they demand of other Americans, appealing to the reader's logic logos and pinpointing the Obama's hypocrisy. All right, so I want to state what her central argument is and how she's using concrete examples, and that appeals to their logic, the reader's logic. All right, I continue them. I write, Gunlock begins her article by exposing the most recent example of this hypocrisy, one caught in a photo. Quote, Michelle Obama tucked into a juicy cheeseburger and fries at her local favorite, Miss Katie's Diner. You'll notice that I just simply put a number 1 in parentheses. Once I establish the last name, Gunlock, I don't have to keep saying Gunlock, but I do want to put down the paragraph number where I found this quote. So here it is, and I put the period at the very end. And then I follow this up. Brilliantly, Gunlock appeals to conservatives with traditional images of an American diner and an all American meal to question not only how these could be deemed as dangerous, but also how the First Lady seems above her own rules. If this were not an isolated event, then her argument would falter. But Gunlock effectively follows this with a number of documented examples. There are the grease-stained bags of fast food, the much buzzed about pizza flown in from Chicago, the president's traffic clogging stops at burger joints, and Ben's Chili Bowl. Paragraph 9. You'll notice here what I've done is I've taken a sentence and I've taken parts of it, but not the whole sentence. So therefore, I used an ellipses of 3 dots in between places where I'm kind of piecing things together. And if you find yourself in a bind where you're going over your word limit of 200 words roughly for each body paragraph, that's another way of sort of tightening it up. And that's something I'll probably have to do as I revise this. Continue. Gunlock implies that the Obamas are almost flaunting these food indulgences and then turns it on them by explicitly suggesting that Michelle Obama, quote, keep her proclivities toward fatty foods hidden, much the way her husband does with one of his vices, smoking. Now, in the original quote, it says, keep your proclivities. And so because I changed the word from your to her, I have to put brackets, hard brackets around any words that I personally changed within a quote. And then I follow that up by saying, whereas the First Lady is quick, quote, to harangue the American public, food manufacturers, grocery stores, restaurants, school staff, kitchen staffs, and even her own husband and children, Gunlock is easily quick to draw out the hypocrisy that more government will solve problems that the leaders of that government refuse to follow themselves. I have no idea what I just wrote there. I read that one more time. I'm so sorry, everybody. Gunlock is easily quick to draw out the hypocrisy that more government will solve problems that the leaders of that government refuse to follow themselves. Got it. I know what I'm trying to say. I'm not sure I'm saying it clearly. That she's pulling out how it's hypocritical for them to say, hey, we should have a bigger government when that bigger government isn't going to do what it wants everyone else to do. Maybe I should reword that. Lastly, you'll notice I put a 3 at the very end. So even though the quote ends here, the sentence doesn't end till here. So I always wait to the very end of my sentence to put my citations. That's why that 3 is at the very end and not after the word children. And then I try to finish up by kind of bringing this whole thing to a close. Understandably, more government, and a hypocritical one at that, plays into the hands of her conservative readers. All right, so I tried to use some adverbs like brilliantly, as you can see up here. I tried to use, there's another one I remember reading, I don't know where it is now. Effectively is another adverb I try to use. Understandably. Those adverbs sometimes will also help explain how I see that she's actually doing a great job. She's really effective in the way that she's writing this piece. So this is a way of approaching your first body paragraph. Clean topic sentence, some good quotes. You'll notice I have 4 quotes in this, and I'm going to tighten it up to over my 200 word limit. But I also kind of sandwich between quotes some explanations, some analysis of both how as well as why. And I keep coming back to that audience, making sure I understand who the audience is for this writing. Okay. See what you can do, everybody.